The clinking of glasses echoed through the ballroom, a sound too polished to feel real. I sat at the far end of the table, my dress a faded shade of blue that caught no light. Everyone else shimmered. My father, Richard Caldwell, stood at the center of the stage beneath a chandelier that looked like it had been built to reflect his pride. "Tonight," he said, his voice smooth and heavy, "we celebrate the future of our family. My brilliant daughter, Chloe Caldwell, will inherit Caldwell Logistics, the company I built from the ground up, along with the Upper East Side mansion and a brand new Tesla." Applause erupted like thunder. I forced my hands together once or twice, the sound swallowed by the crowd. My mother, Linda, dabbed the corner of her eye with a napkin, her face glowing with satisfaction. Chloe rose gracefully, her diamond necklace flashing under the light. "Thank you, Dad," she said, and her voice carried across the room like a practiced performance. "I'll make sure to make you proud." "You already have," he replied, pulling her into a half embrace. "You've always been our shining star." Someone near me whispered, "That must make the quiet one the dim star." Laughter followed, quiet but sharp enough to slice through me. Chloe looked down the table, meeting my eyes. "Emma, are you taking notes? You could learn something tonight." "I think I've learned plenty," I said softly. Richard turned toward me, the corners of his mouth tightening. "Show some respect." "Emma, this isn't the time for your moods." "It never is." "Right," I replied, my voice low but steady. He sighed, loud enough for everyone to hear. This is exactly why she could never run the company. Always emotional, always difficult. My mother's tone cut in like silk over steel. "Don't ruin your sister's moment." I lowered my gaze, letting the words pile on top of one another. Emotional, difficult, the dumb one. They had all said it before, but tonight it felt final, carved into me under the golden light. Then a quiet voice broke through the noise behind me. "Miss Caldwell," I turned. A man in a black suit stood there, unfamiliar but calm, holding a white envelope. He leaned close enough for only me to hear. "It's time they know who you really are." Before I could speak, he placed the envelope on the table, gave a slight nod, and disappeared into the crowd. My fingers brushed the sealed flap. My heart beat so loud it drowned out the applause. Chloe was still on stage, soaking in the spotlight, while I sat in the shadows, holding something heavier than anyone in that room could imagine. I was 8 when I first realized silence could bruise. Dinner that night stretched on like a test of endurance. My father sat at the head of the long table, reading the business section of the paper while the rest of us pretended to be a family. "I won first place in the school art contest," I said, holding up a small certificate. "They said my painting would hang in the main hallway." He didn't look up. "At least you didn't color outside the lines," he said flatly. Turning a page, my mother smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides a sigh. "That's nice, dear. Now, Chloe, tell us about your math competition." Chloe's eyes flicked toward me, already glowing with victory. "I got the gold medal. The teacher said my score was the highest in the district." My father's newspaper lowered just enough for his smile to appear. "That's my girl," he said, always ahead. "I could show you the painting," I murmured. "It's not now." "Emma," my mother interrupted. "Your sister's talking." The conversation shifted around me like a current I couldn't swim against. Chloe talked about the next competition, about scholarships, about Harvard someday. Every word she spoke felt rehearsed, every praise she received automatic. When I tried to speak again, Chloe laughed softly. "You don't have to look so serious." "Emma, it's just art." I stared at my plate, the fork trembling slightly in my hand. "It's not just art to me." "Everything's not about you," my father said. His tone clipped. The room went quiet, except for the steady tick of the clock behind him. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat, and whispered, "I understand." Chloe leaned back in her chair, satisfied. "You should," she said. Later that night, I left the certificate on the kitchen counter, right beside the crystal glasses they used to toast her win. In the morning, it was gone. No one mentioned it again. That pattern never changed. At every dinner, Chloe sat near the center, bright and certain. I sat at the far end, barely visible. My father asked her about her grades, my mother praised her posture, and I learned to eat quietly because words, in that house, were luxuries I couldn't afford. When my parents decided that Chloe needed private tutors for her brilliant mind, I was told to stay quiet during her lessons. "You distract her," my mother said one afternoon. "You always want attention when your sister is working." I wanted to argue but didn't. Instead, I called the only person who never made me feel small. My grandfather, George Whitfield. He picked up on the second ring. "Emma," he said, his voice warm and steady. "I was just thinking of you. How's my favorite dreamer?" I hesitated. "They said I shouldn't bother Chloe, that I don't focus enough." He chuckled softly. "Focus comes in many forms." "What have you been working on lately?" "Painting," I said. "But Mom says it's a hobby, not a future." "Did you finish one?" he asked. "Yes. It's of the lilac garden behind your house." There was a pause, gentle, thoughtful. Then, "Bring it next weekend. I want to see it with my own eyes." When I arrived, he met me at the door himself. His hands were calloused from years of building the business everyone else took for granted. He looked at my painting for a long time without speaking. "You see light where others don't," he said finally. "That's rare. I just paint what I feel." I murmured, "And that," he said, "is what your parents never learned to value." I frowned. "They say I'm the quiet one, the one who doesn't think fast enough." He shook his head. "Quiet doesn't mean weak. It means you notice what others miss." I watched him pour 2 cups of tea, his movements slow and deliberate. "Grandpa, do you think I'll ever make them proud?" He smiled sadly. "Pride fades, Emma, but compassion, that's what builds something that lasts." I lowered my gaze. "Then maybe I'll never fit here." He placed a hand over mine. "You will, in time, but on your own terms. One day, you'll understand why patience is stronger than brilliance." The clock ticked softly between us. I didn't know what he meant then. Not really. But that day, for the first time, someone looked at me and didn't see the dumb one. He saw me. By the time I turned 22, the space between Chloe and me had become something you could measure in silence. Every word at home revolved around her job offers, her reputation, her brilliance. One evening, my father called everyone into the living room. His tone was clipped, formal. "We need to discuss the company's next phase," he said. "Chloe will start shadowing me at Caldwell Logistics. Emma, you'll help your mother with the household accounts. It's time you contribute in a realistic way." I stared at him. "You mean unpaid work?" He frowned. "You've always misunderstood responsibility. Your sister invests her time. You waste yours. I work, Dad. Every morning at the cafe, every night finishing design classes online." "Design classes," he repeated, a hint of mockery in his voice. "That's a hobby, not a career." Chloe leaned forward on the sofa, legs crossed neatly. "Maybe Emma just needs to learn consistency." "You quit things too easily." "I quit trying to impress people who never notice." I said. My mother's expression hardened. "Don't start." "Emma, this isn't jealousy, it's realism. Your father knows best." I stood up. "You all keep using that word as if it's truth. But all you really mean is Chloe first." Richard's voice rose. "Watch your tone." "I've watched it for years," I said. "It's the only thing I've ever been allowed to do." He stepped closer, his voice low and cold. "If you can't respect this family, you don't belong in this house." The room froze. Chloe looked away, suddenly quiet. My mother whispered, "Richard," but he raised a hand to stop her. I felt my throat tighten. "Fine," I said. "I'll make it easier for you." "Don't be dramatic," my mother said. You always twist things. I'm not twisting anything. I'm leaving. Richard didn't stop me. Good. Maybe then you'll understand what gratitude looks like. I packed in silence. No one came upstairs. I folded the same faded blue dress I had worn to every family event and placed it on top of my bag. Before I closed the zipper, my phone buzzed. A text from my grandfather read, "Don't mistake their blindness for the truth." I put the phone in my pocket, took one last look at the family portraits lining the hallway, and walked out into the cold night. The front door shut behind me with a sound that felt final. 3 years passed before I saw them again. Not because I wanted to, but because my mother called and said, "It's Chloe's 24th birthday. Everyone important will be there. Don't embarrass us by not showing up." I almost said no, but something inside me, a mix of exhaustion and defiance, made me agree. "I'll come," I said. "Don't worry. I know how to stay invisible." The ballroom in Manhattan pulsed with music and murmurs. Waiters glided between tables with practiced grace. I stood near the back, checking the seating chart my mother had thrust into my hands earlier. "Make sure the investors sit by the senator," she'd ordered, "and don't wander near the press table. You'll only confuse people." When she passed me now, her perfume lingered like command. "Keep your chin up. Emma, you don't want people thinking you're unhappy." "I'm fine," I said. She gave me a look that measured everything from my dress to my posture. "At least you wore something simple." "Old?" I corrected quietly. "Not simple." She didn't respond, just moved on, across the room. Chloe sparkled under the lights. Her gown shimmered silver, her laugh bright and effortless. People surrounded her, drawn like moths. My father stood nearby, his hand resting on her shoulder, his pride heavy in every gesture. From where I stood, their words reached me through the music. "My daughter," he said to a guest, "is the future of this family." Someone asked about me. My father's answer was casual, almost amused. "Emma. She's doing creative things, I think." Laughter followed. I felt the heat rise in my chest but didn't move. A waiter stopped beside me. "Miss Caldwell, would you like champagne?" "No," I said. "Just water." He hesitated. "They said the champagne is only for guests." I smiled faintly. "Then water is perfect." When the music shifted, my mother motioned for me to step back further. "The cameras will focus on Chloe when your father makes the announcement," she said. "Don't worry," I told her. "They won't see me at all." Her expression softened briefly, almost pitying. "That's what I've always admired about you," she said. "You never make a scene." I looked at her. Steady. "Not yet." The lights dimmed, and a hush swept over the ballroom. My father stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand, his tuxedo gleaming under the gold lights. "Tonight," he began, his voice rich and deliberate, "we celebrate not only my daughter's birthday, but her future. Chloe Caldwell will inherit Caldwell Logistics, the mansion on the Upper East Side, and a new Tesla to match the future she's earned." Applause rolled through the room like thunder. I stood at the back, hands clenched around the seating chart, trying to breathe evenly. My mother glanced toward me once, just long enough to make sure I was clapping. Chloe's smile widened. "Thank you, Dad. You've always believed in me." "I believe in results," he said proudly, "and you've never disappointed." Laughter followed, light and easy. Mine caught in my throat. I reached for the glass of water on the nearby table, but my hand brushed something else the envelope. I had almost forgotten it since that night weeks ago when the stranger handed it to me. For a moment, the noise of the crowd faded into nothing. I slipped the envelope open, careful not to draw attention. Inside was a thick stack of documents official, embossed with the Caldwell Logistics seal. My name appeared on every page, Emma Grace Caldwell. I skimmed the words once, then again. Transfer of ownership, majority shareholder, trust beneficiary. It felt impossible to process. At the back of the folder, a letter in my grandfather's handwriting waited, folded neatly, smelling faintly of tea. "Emma," it began, "if you are reading this, the time has come. You were not born to follow applause, but to lead with empathy. What others mocked as weakness was the strength I built this company upon. Everything I own now belongs to you." My fingers trembled. My throat burned. Across the room, Chloe raised her glass toward my parents. The crowd cheered again. My mother leaned in toward a guest, saying proudly, "She's her father's daughter." I pressed the letter to my chest and whispered, "Not anymore." I looked down at my reflection in the glass same dress. Same seat in the shadows, but something inside had shifted. When the applause began again, I didn't clap. I set the letter carefully back into the folder, straightened my shoulders, and began walking toward the stage. My mother's voice carried faintly through the crowd. "Emma, where are you going?" I didn't answer. I could hear my own heartbeat now, steady, certain, for the first time in my life. I wasn't walking away from them. I was walking toward them. The music faded as I reached the front of the ballroom. My father's voice was still booming into the microphone, full of self-satisfaction. "To Chloe Caldwell," he declared, "the pride of our family, the legacy of our name." The crowd erupted in cheers. Glasses clinked. Chloe smiled as if the night belonged to her. I stepped onto the stage. "This moment belongs to me," I said. The words sliced through the noise like glass breaking. Laughter died. My father turned, his smile stiffening into disbelief. "Emma," he said slowly, "what are you doing? I'm taking back what's mine." "Get down," my mother hissed from the front row. "You're embarrassing yourself." "No," I said. "You've embarrassed me my entire life." My father moved closer, his voice lowering but still sharp enough for the microphone to catch. "This is Chloe's night. Don't make a scene you'll regret." "I'm not making a scene," I said, holding up the folder. "I'm showing the truth." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Chloe's smile faltered. "What are you talking about?" I flipped open the folder and lifted the papers high. These documents were signed by our grandfather, George Whitfield. They name me the majority shareholder of Caldwell Logistics, the trust's sole beneficiary, and the rightful owner of the Upper East Side mansion. My father's jaw tightened. "That's impossible." I turned the letter around so he could see the signature. It's his handwriting. "You can try to deny me again, but you can't deny him." My mother stood abruptly. "Stop this nonsense before you ruin everything. Everything I repeated." "You mean the illusion that only Chloe mattered?" Chloe's voice cracked. "You think you deserve it. You did nothing for this family." I met her eyes. "You performed for them. I endured them." Grandpa saw the difference. My father lunged forward, trying to snatch the papers, but I stepped back. "Touch me, and everyone here will see the man behind the polished speeches." "Enough," he barked. "You're delusional." I unfolded the letter and began to read. "You were not born to follow applause, but to lead with empathy. What others mocked as weakness was the strength I built this company upon." The room fell silent. Even the waiters froze. I lowered the paper, my voice steady. I was never the dumb one. I was just waiting for the right moment. No one spoke. Only the faint hum of the microphone filled the air. Then, somewhere in the crowd, a single glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered. The sound of the glass shattering still echoed when a slow, firm tap broke through the silence. One tap, then another, deliberate and unhurried. Every head turned. My grandfather, George Whitfield, was walking toward the stage. His cane struck the marble floor with each step, his expression calm, almost solemn. The crowd parted instinctively as he passed. My father's voice trembled first. "Dad, this isn't the time." George raised a hand, silencing him. "I know exactly what time it is." He reached the stage, his gaze steady on me. "Emma," he said softly, "you read my letter." Yes, Grandpa, I whispered. Then you understand why I wrote it. My father stepped forward, anger tightening his voice. She's confused. Someone must have forged your name. I'll handle this. George turned to him, his tone sharpened by disappointment. Handle it like you handled your daughters. You built a company on profit and forgot the people who helped you build it. Richard's face flushed. I expanded your legacy. You should be thanking me, Legacy George said, his voice rising for the first time. A legacy means nothing if it destroys the very values it was built on. You turned compassion into weakness, humility into shame. The room fell dead still. Even Chloe, usually unshakable, took a step back. My mother's voice broke through, brittle and shaking. You can't just hand everything to her. She's not prepared. George looked at her. Preparedness isn't measured in appearances. Linda, it's measured in integrity. Chloe finally found her words. I worked for this. I studied. I planned. I did everything right. You worked to be admired, George said. Emma worked to survive. Chloe's lips quivered. So what, that makes her better? No, I said quietly. It just means I learned what being ignored feels like. George turned back to the crowd. When I founded Caldwell Logistics, I wanted it to give people dignity, not fear. I watched both my granddaughters grow, and I chose the one who still knows how to listen. My father exhaled through his teeth. You're making a mistake. George looked at him, eyes steady as steel. No, Richard, I'm correcting one. He placed his cane beside the podium and rested a trembling hand on my shoulder. You are the rightful heir, Emma. This company belongs to you. A murmur spread through the room. Someone began clapping tentatively at first, then louder, joined by others. Soon the applause swelled until it filled every corner of the ballroom. My father's jaw tightened. We'll see what the lawyers say. George didn't flinch. They'll say the truth. It's all signed and sealed. Now you can either stay and rebuild with her or walk away. Richard looked from him to me, his eyes full of rage he couldn't voice. My mother slipped her arm through his, urging him to leave. They turned and strode toward the exit, the crowd's applause rising behind them. Chloe stayed, motionless, her eyes wide, her voice small. Grandpa, I just wanted to make you proud. He looked at her gently. Then start now. Be proud of the right things. The cane struck marble once more as he stepped back beside me. Let's begin again, he said. This time, with the truth. After the applause faded, the ballroom emptied slowly, leaving only the echo of voices and the sharp scent of spilled champagne. My grandfather sat down near the edge of the stage, his cane resting against the chair. Are you all right? I asked. He smiled faintly. Old bones, not broken ones. I've waited a long time to see this. Emma, it doesn't feel like victory, I said. It feels heavy. He nodded. That's what truth feels like when you've carried silence too long. Chloe was still there, standing a few steps away, her silver gown dim under the fading lights. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Emma, she said, her voice uncertain. I didn't know. I thought Grandpa always meant for me to take over. You never asked him. I said. She looked down, because I thought I didn't need to. Everyone told me it was already mine. Now you know what it feels like to be told who you are, I said quietly. Tears slipped down her cheek. I didn't mean to hurt you. I know, I said. But you did. She hesitated. What happens now? I looked at my grandfather. He gave a slow nod, leaving the answer to me. We start over, I said. Tomorrow. I'll meet the employees. We'll reopen the books. Listen to the ones who never get heard. Chloe's brows furrowed. You're serious completely, I said. If this company is going to mean something again, it starts with listening. My grandfather's hand found mine, firm but gentle. Hard doesn't mean wrong, he said. I met his eyes. No, I replied. It just means it's finally real. Chloe stepped forward, offering her hand. Then let me help. For a moment, I saw the sister I had once wanted to believe in. I took her hand, not as forgiveness, but as a beginning. When the last guests left, the ballroom fell silent, except for the faint sound of my grandfather's cane tapping against the floor. Chloe sat on the edge of a chair, her eyes red but steady. "Dad and Mom won't forgive us," she said quietly. "They don't have to," I replied. "We just have to move forward." She exhaled. "You make it sound easy." "It isn't," I said. "But it's possible." She looked up at me. "You're really taking over the company. I'm not taking it," I said. "I'm rebuilding it. Grandpa gave me the chance to do it right." Chloe hesitated, then nodded. "Then I'll stay. I want to see what right looks like." I glanced at my grandfather. "Are you sure?" He smiled faintly. "Every generation has to learn that power without purpose is just noise. Maybe this time, you'll make it music." I helped him to his feet, and we walked together toward the exit. The air outside was cool, the city lights glimmering against the wet pavement. "Emma," Chloe called from behind. "I spent years believing you were beneath me. But tonight, when you stood there, I saw you differently." I stopped, turning to face her. "Then see me as I am. No spotlight, no stage, just me." She swallowed hard. "You were there all along," she said. I nodded. "And you can be here too, if you start by looking straight." She didn't answer, just gave a small nod that felt like a fragile promise. My grandfather's hand rested on my shoulder. "You did well," he said. "You didn't win by shouting louder. You won by standing still." We stepped out into the night, the doors closing softly behind us. The street hummed with life cars, laughter, a distant siren. For the first time, I wasn't walking away from something. I was walking toward it.